US President Donald Trump says he's postponed a planned military strike on Iran that was to be carried out on Tuesday. And he says there's now a good chance of reaching a deal to limit Iran's nuclear program after Tehran sent a peace proposal to Washington. Posting on social media, Trump said he paused the attack at the request of Gulf states to allow for serious negotiations. Earlier, the president had warned the clock was ticking for Iran to make a deal.
Other countries have come to me and they've said we were getting ready to do a very major attack tomorrow. I've put it off for a little while, hopefully maybe forever, but possibly for a little while, because we've had very big discussions with Iran, and we'll see what they amount to. I was asked by Saudi Arabia, Qatar, UAE, and some others if we could put it off for 2 or 3 days, a short period of time, because they think that they are getting very close to making a deal. And if we can do that, where there's no nuclear weapon going into the hands of Iran, I think, and if they're satisfied, we will be probably satisfied also.
Iran's president says Tehran is willing to engage diplomatically with the United States, but not at the expense of its sovereignty. In a post on X, Masoud Pezeshkian wrote, Iran's engagement with other countries would be conducted with authority and dignity and should not be seen as a sign of weakness or concession. He went on to say Iran won't give up on the nation's fundamental rights, even while remaining open to talks. Pezeshkian added that Tehran would continue to pursue its interests and national dignity through a combination of dialogue and firm resolve. Let's go to our correspondent Resul Serdar, who is live for us in Tehran. Resul, so what are the Iranians saying about where things stand diplomatically?
Well, so far, we see that there is still a significant difference in the positions of the negotiating parties here. So Iranians saying that after the USA rejected the Iranian 14-point proposal, then they had some demands, and that demands have arrived to Tehran through Pakistani mediators, and Iran made some of the amendments, and the response was given to the Pakistani mediators to be conveyed to Washington. However, here, so the latest statement is from Kazem Garibabadi, the Deputy Foreign Minister of the country, yesterday attending the National Security Commission of the Parliament. In that session, he simply said that Iran is not going to give up on its right of enriching the uranium. This is one sticking point that Americans are asking Iranians indeed to do. And according to American proposals, so Iranians must stop enriching uranium for the next 2 decades, and Iranians saying that it's too long, they're not going to accept that. And then Iranians are saying even before discussing our nuclear program, there must be an end to the war at all fronts, including Lebanon. And Americans are not giving that guarantees. They're saying, well, it depends on the course of the negotiations. And then, so Iranians are asking Americans to lift the blockade, American blockade over the Strait of Hormuz. And so that is not being guaranteed by the United States. So the United States is asking Iran first to reopen the Strait of Hormuz. So Iranians are also insisting on the compensation of the war and for the damages that has incurred during the war. And Americans are definitely not interested even into that. There will be no compensation. Then Iranians are asking Americans to return Iranian frozen assets and properties. So what we hear in that Americans have shown a little flexibility there, saying that 25% of that could be returned to Tehran. And then there is another demand, which is a regional one. Iranians are also asking the American forces to be withdrawn from the whole region, particularly from the GCC countries. And finally, Iranians are asking all the sanctions related to the nuclear file, the missile file, human rights violations, terrorism sponsorship, and so on. And that also is not being guaranteed by Americans. So that's why the talks are ongoing, but Iranians are very much expecting a new wave of war here in Tehran.
And Resul, as the standoff drags on, tell us about the impact this war is having on the economy and on ordinary people.
Well, indeed. So there is a fragile ceasefire. However, Iranians, even if it's not the battlefield, in the market, they are feeling the impact of the war so practically. Every aisle, every shelf, every price tag in the market is a constant reminder of how the war is deeply affecting the daily life in Iran. So just to give some numbers, so in 1 month, just 1 year, the solid vegetable oil price have jumped by 375%, the liquid oil over 300%, the imported rice over 200%, and point-to-point inflation, according to Iran Statistical Center, is 73.5%. So the reasons for this, of course, is the inflation, a weakening currency, and the wartime disruptions, and of course the growing difficulties of importing the raw materials. And on the top of that, there is an American blockade that is worsening the situation here, because more than 80% of Iran's import and export happen through the Strait of Hormuz. An American blockade is significantly reducing that figure. So, but for many Iranians, now the main issue is the unpredictability, because there is possibility of the war lingering on, and Iranians are swinging between the fear of the return of the war and hope for the peace. But there is a constant economic anxiety that you feel when you talk to the people, when you go to the street in Tehran.
Okay, many thanks for that update. Resul Serdar there with the latest from Tehran.